What is going on, Degens, fight fans, everyone alike? It is finally time for the return of Johnny Bones Jones. We are here, Fight Night Live for UFC 285. I'm here with Kev and Dan, K-Woody Kev Dog, and BetJewce boys. How we doing? We've been waiting for this fight for years now, right? 3 years, and it's finally here.
Man, another day, another dollar. Such a pleasure to be back with you guys after sitting out last week traveling for work. But back to the grind, and it's going to be in a big way, guys. I've got a really good feeling about this card that we're going to cash in, and what an enjoyable time for the OG UFC fans to see the return of Jon Jones.
Yeah, man, Jon Jones. I mean, what can you say? The guy's been the GOAT forever. Took a little bit of hiatus. Exciting to see him come back, a new weight class. Been saying all the right things, but yeah, I mean, not just that, right? We got a fire card just from top to bottom. So excited to be breaking this down with you boys.
Yeah, I mean, even the prelims are stacked. Only 5 fights on the main card for us to break down for you guys this week. Last week, pretty uneventful card. I know us on the KP broke about even, maybe plus minuscule units, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, I think we lost about a unit. Obviously, both of those, both picks that were tied to Andre Muniz lost. But credit to Brendan Allen, man. Dude, the guy came in and submitted a guy that, I mean, you just did not think that was going to happen. So I thought on the feet, Muniz looked good. What surprised me is just how, I mean, Allen taking it to the ground, really. I mean, that was a bit of a shocker. And, it just goes to show that you can have all the accolades you want. I mean, on paper, Muniz is the, decorated grappler, jiu-jitsu practitioner. But it's a fight, man. It's a fight. Shit can happen. You step the wrong way, you're off balance one way, and it can cost you a fight, it can cost you a position. And in this situation, right, Muniz just couldn't recover him getting taken down. Allen came in next round, took him down again, and finished the deal. So credit to him, honestly. Hats off to Allen. That was a big performance by him.
Yeah, it was that Louisiana swamp, blood, heart, and spirit. Truly a miraculous performance. It just made Muniz just look like an amateur, truthfully, from top to bottom. I mean, Muniz didn't really have a lot of moments, in my opinion. And, Allen dug deep, certainly earned my respect in that fight. And we're going to move on and cash in this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it's safe to say that he made the most of that short notice main event appearance that he had with the dropout of Nikita Krylov. But, we're on to obviously a much better card this week here with UFC 285. So without wasting your guys' time, let's jump right into the main card. And this first fight, man, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm going to put my money shades on just to get them back into the right, the right swing of things. I think I'm 0-2 in my last 2 money money shades plays. So me using it on minus 1,500, Bo Nickal here. He takes on Jamie Pickett. I am definitely putting them on for here just to get the good juju back, because honestly, the only way that Bo Nickal loses this fight is if it's like a self-inflicted wound. Like if he literally kicks him and breaks his leg, that's the only way that he could lose this fight, in my opinion. I just don't see absolutely anywhere where Jamie Pickett gets the job done. I mean, Bo Nickal, obviously, probably the brightest prospect on the UFC roster, in the MMA world, really, just considering his wrestling accolades coming into the UFC. 2 Dana White Contender Series fights, both first-round finishes. Guy had a sick triangle choke submission in last time, and that is not Jamie Pickett on the graphics, but that is okay.
That's my boy, the White Lion.
Jamie Pickett is far darker. Jamie Pickett is far darker looking than Johan Leones, but that's okay. Jamie Pickett, he's one of those guys, hate to say it, but bottom of the UFC roster, right? I mean, he lost to Jordan Wright, just lost to Dennis Tuluna his last time out, and they are just worlds apart on the ground. I think it's safe to say that if this one gets to the mat, it's over very, very quickly in Bo Nickal's favor. And, if there's any straws to pick here at Jamie Pickett, it would have to come in the stand-up game, right? Because clearly on the ground he's outmatched. But even so, he really doesn't offer much in the stand-up. So it's not enough to scare me off a minus 1,500 line. I think a lot of people are going to look at this line. They're going to be like, well, it's MMA. In the UFC, particularly, a plus 1,000 fighter shouldn't exist. But like, this is example, exhibit A of, how this line is, rightly applied. I think that Nickal gets it done early, probably first round, and a lot of people lean that way. If you use the DraftKings same game parlay feature, you could actually get Bo Nickal money line and under 7.5 minutes, also known as 1.5 rounds. Gets down to minus 265, which I think is a great play, great parlay piece. If you take that straight up on what they offer on fight parlays, it's like minus 475. So just using the same game parlay feature there, you're going to get a lot of juice out of that play.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a shame that we have to break down Jamie Pickett, a guy who went 0-2 Dana White Contender Series. For some reason out of the imagination, they bring him on for a third fight in the Dana White Contender Series, earns a contract. He's 2-4 in the UFC, and he's a bum. I mean, out of his 4 losses, 3 are by finish. The 2 wins that he does have are versus guys that, if I'm not mistaken, are no longer in the UFC. Well, no, I think Joseph Holmes might be one more away from getting cut. But long story.
That is your boy, Kev.
You already know. So, look, at the end of the day, Bo Nickal is a different animal. I mean, this guy is regarded as one of the most legendary, collegiate wrestlers of all time. 3-time NCAA D1 wrestling champion. Get this: his wrestling career in college, 120-3. I mean,
I know all about it, baby.
Unbelievable. Look, I mean, this is his 4th mixed martial arts fight, so there's no doubt that, he still has a lot of growing pains to push through, but I have no doubt that he's been taking this extremely seriously. And he just seems like he's got that it factor, man. You don't really say this about many fighters. I think that there's, a few other fighters actually on this main card that have that it factor. But I mean, this is going to be a walk in the park for Bo Nickal. Pickett knows exactly what he's doing here. He's the sacrificial lamb. And I'm going to be attacking this spot, Bo Nickal first round, minus 190. The KO prop, the sub prop, I really think that you're really just throwing a dart in a wall. Like, I think that Bo Nickal can find the finish any way he wants, but I'm not going to get cute. Just going to take it in the first round at minus 190. Still think that there's incredible value there. I just don't see Pickett surviving 5 rounds, and that's how I'm going to be approaching this fight. But really excited to see Bo Nickal's trajectory in this career. Young stud, and clearly has the tools to make it really far in this game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go too deep into this. I am curious, though, who the 2% of people on Tapology are that pick Pickett to win here. Like,
bots, man.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's. I think the best word to describe Bo Nickal is just a competitor. I mean, this guy. You mentioned the wrestling accolades. He's taken super fight grappling matches with Gordon Ryan. This guy is now obviously 10 toes into his MMA career. And I think the sky's the limit, honestly. So I really don't think, as you mentioned, it's not a matter of if he wins. It's how and when. I'm going to lean actually the submission here. I think, as shit as Jamie Pickett is, he does have over 20 professional fights. And I think, it'd be foolish for us to think that, Bo Nickal's going to come in there and, land an overhand right and finish him. I mean, at the very least, Pickett knows how to survive to a certain extent, right? So I do think that the easiest path to victory for Nickal will be, go in there, land a quick takedown, find the submission, and be on your jolly way. Find another fight in the next couple months without a scratch on you. I mean, why take the unnecessary damage this young in your career? I mean, once you get to that top 10, top 5 caliber opponent, then you're preparing for a little bit more of a war. But I think a guy like Pickett, the path to victory is so clear for me. So if I do take a stab here, I'll take the submission prop. I feel like a lot of people are going to be on the round 1, which is feels kind of trappy. Honestly,
it's a little square.
A little square. I mean, I just feel like, again, he did finish for his 2 opponents on the Contender Series in dominating fashion. But you're talking about a guy who has multiple fights in the UFC. He's won in the UFC for what it's worth. So, I mean, can Jamie Pickett survive a round? Maybe. I don't know. I'll just take him by submission and be on my way.
Yeah, I actually like that take. I think we've seen it in both his Contender Series fights, right? Where if he gets you down, he's not looking to ground upon. He just want to get you out of there. And the quickest way seems to be by submission. We know Jamie Pickett's been submitted a few times too. So I like that look a lot.
No doubt.
And that's also kind of the reason why I was looking at that same game parlay feature. Because if, say, Jamie Pickett does get out of the first round, right, he's not making it to the end of the second round. So if you could somehow find a way to get the 1.5 in there, like I really truly feel like there's probably a 90% chance that if Bo Nickal wins, it happens in the first 7.5 minutes of this fight. I think 10% of the time it happens later. So if you're able to get that down to minus 265, especially since the line being offered is minus 475, it's just, in my opinion, it's a must take.
Yeah.
And I actually, threw this out in the Discord earlier that you could actually parlay that with Valentina Shevchenko on over 4.5 minutes. So basically, Shevchenko wins and the fight starts round 2. It was about like plus 105, I think it was. So I'm definitely gonna have exposure to that.
Yeah.
But let's move on to this next fight. This is actually one of the more exciting fights. Came together on short notice. Mateusz Gamrot taking on Jalin Turner. Turner is on a 5-fight win streak here. Funny enough, in 2020, this guy was 8-5. Had a few losses in the UFC. Didn't really have too bright of a future. Rallies together 5 wins in a row. A lot of finishes as well. Just came off a finish over Brad Riddell in under a minute, right? He submitted him pretty much as a club and sub. And then you have Mateusz Gamrot, who's coming off, a big loss in his career. He had a very big opportunity against Neal Dariush, where he actually was minus 250 in that fight. And in hindsight, I can only scratch my head at myself taking Mateusz Gamrot that big of a favorite over Neal Dariush. Neal is just, he's that guy. We're going to see it in May against Charles Oliveira, just how good Neal is. But I'm not going to knock Mateusz Gamrot for losing that fight. I think what he did show us was that he's very durable, that he can last 15 minutes, and he's not going to fray under pressure. And I think that's Jalin Turner's entire style and game plan, where he wants to pressure you to a point where you're just either going to crumble or you're going to make a mistake, and he's going to capitalize on it. And I just don't necessarily think I see I don't see that happening for Jalin Turner against someone like Mateusz Gamrot. Right now, the odds being offered, Gamrot minus 205, best line available on DraftKings, whereas Jalin Turner, you get a plus 186 on FanDuel. Definitely initial reaction looking at this one, I was like, wow, Jalin Turner is this big of an underdog against Mateusz Gamrot. That's crazy. But, you kind of look at a few things here and there, and Jalin Turner being as big and tall as he is, he's got very, very skinny legs. I think it plays right into the wrestling style of Mateusz Gamrot. I could really see Gamrot getting a finish here on the ground by submission. Not sure if I'm going to play it straight up, but I definitely lean Gamrot here in this spot.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like you got to look at this from both sides in the sense that we're seeing Gamrot come off of a loss where really didn't look too impressive. I think the line, as you mentioned on that fight against Dariush, was a little bit more of an overreaction. He came off a close, highly competitive fight against Arman Tsarukyan where he was able to get the nod. And obviously Tsarukyan, a lot of people see this guy as a future champ in the division. So being minus 250 against a guy like Dariush, I mean, and again, I was right there with you. I was on Gamrot and kind of fell into that trap, but I think Dariush and him fighting Charles Oliveira, probably one step away from a title shot. The guy is just so well rounded. I mean, his grappling is so high level, and then from a striking perspective, he clearly had the edge on Gamrot. So the grappling kind of cancels each other out. I mean, Dariush did what he was supposed to do, and defended takedowns and kept the fight standing. And on the feet, he was able to land significant shots. Still a pretty close fight, I think, but the moments belonged to Dariush in that fight, and that was ultimately the difference maker. I think just when you look at Turner on the flip side, we've, like you mentioned, we've literally never seen him this good before, right? He's coming off a quick finish against Brad Riddell. 5 straight finishes, right? This guy seems like he can do no wrong, but look at against who he's beating. These are kind of middle of the pack guys that maybe Riddell, maybe Malarkey guys. Do I see them breaking into the top 10, maybe the top 15? I don't know, but I just think Gamrot, again, you talk about a guy who has that kind of that championship mentality. I do think that he's going to come back stronger after taking that L from Dariush, and I think we're actually getting him at a discount here. If I look here, I mean, getting him at minus 210 right now against a guy like Turner, who, let's face it, his last 5 opponents, they weren't exactly championship grapplers. None of them were actual.
And they're all one-dimensional, right, for the most part.
Yeah, and you look a little bit deeper into his career. You're talking about a guy who got taken down 4 or 5 times against Matt Frevola. So as good as he is, I think his style doesn't necessarily play into Gamrot's as well as Dariush's style did. And so because of that, I do think Gamrot can control Turner. He can land takedowns. I think he's good enough on the ground to stay out of the submission threats. I mean, you mentioned a lot of what Turner's a lot of his finishes on the ground from a submission perspective have been set up because of the striking. So I think that's really his only path to land a submission here. But because of the short notice replacement of Gamrot here, I actually like this fight to go the distance, and you can get that at like plus 137 right now. I see Gamrot, needing a win, and I think Turner has turned a corner in the sense I don't think it'll be that easy to get him out of there. So I see Gamrot leaning on his grappling, controlling the fight from beginning to end. Truth be told, I just don't think that Turner is going to be able to get away from him, and we already know that Gamrot will keep up a high pace for 15 minutes. He'll keep coming. He'll keep shooting. And I just don't know if Turner has the skill to fend him off for, maybe initially, but I think as the fight progresses, like we'll see Gamrot slowly take over. And so I like Gamrot here, but I like the overs here and fight to go the distance at plus money, over 2.5 at plus 110. I mean, I like those spots actually here.
Yeah, Kev, I don't mean to jump in before you, but Dan, I have to ask you this because you were on Gamrot as well last time. Is there a part of you, because I know I've had this feeling this week, where you're looking at the odds of his last fight minus 250 against Dariush, where you think, if I was willing to lay minus 250 against Dariush on Gamrot, I almost have to be willing to take minus 205 versus Jalin.
Oh yeah, absolutely, 100%. I just think like from Dariush and Ciryl Gane are both guys that have great. I mean, they're well rounded, but I mean their grappling is very very high level, and so I just don't see Turner being able to put up that kind of a fight in that department.
Yeah, look, I mean, Jalin Turner is an incredibly unique specimen, right? I mean, he's the tallest fighter in the UFC lightweight division at 6'3". He's going to have 7 inches in reach here in this spot. Works behind a very good jab, good kicks, but at the end of the day, like you guys are alluding to, this is a different sort of competition. This is a different tier, a different echelon, as Matt would say. A fighter. I mean, Mateusz Gamrot brings an incredible amount of cardio pace. That chain wrestling is something to behold. And it's one of those things, like you said, Dan, is if he's unable to get that first or second takedown, you already know those lower leg kicks are going to add up in accumulation. And I just don't think that Turner is going to have the technical ability to defend off that takedown for 3 rounds. Gamrot clearly is training with some of the best fighters in the world, has that secret Polish power, as Matt is fully aware of, and that has great footwork. I think that the one thing that I do like on the Turner side, I think the volume specifically on the feet. I think this is like pure 15 minutes. I think that Turner does lay out a little bit more volume, works by more of a jab, more of something on the feet. But I think when you're just looking about an overall mixed martial artist, I mean, Gamrot is the real deal. He's had some incredible fights in the UFC versus top tier talent, and Beneil Dariush, and of course Arman Tsarukyan, who many consider could be a champion one day. So I'm with you guys. I think Gamrot's going to come in here and find a way. Do I think that it comes early? Probably not. But I wouldn't be surprised by some form of a late submission or even a decision at the end of the day. But yeah, I just think that Gamrot's the real deal here, even on short notice. Haven't had the best of luck with short notice fighters, but I think that Gamrot's the real deal, and he's going to get the job done here.
Yeah, I mean, I still have a little bit of agita taking Jessica Andrade on short notice there. Just completely came in winging it, throwing bombs. Is like, all right, if I'm not going to get her out there fast, I'll just crumble on the mat real quick. But yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said, Kev. Dan, you too. Gamrot is, he's got grit, man. I think that he does come back way stronger this time out than last time. And really what his shortcoming was in the last fight against Dariush was that he had inferior striking and Dariush's takedown defense was too good. So it was hard for him to get clean entries on his takedowns where Dariush couldn't stuff him. I don't see Jalin Turner having that same takedown defense. I don't think the striking is as necessary to land the takedowns in this fight. Yeah. And to Dan's credit too, I kind of agree that there's a chance Gamrot kind of just needs this win, kind of holds him down, doesn't get himself in bad positions. And I could see, like you said, Kev, a late submission or even a decision win.
Yeah. And the reality is Jalin Turner is only 27 years old. So like, this is one of those spots where you're on a 5-fight win streak. You face an animal in Gamrot. take an L and you come back even better. You know, I certainly can see Jalin Turner making a run in the top 5 in this division. I mean, with that sort of that 6'3" build, I mean, it's truly miraculous. And if he's able to just polish out those skills, I think that he can make a run. But this is just one of those spots that it's going to be a very, very tough task ahead. And man, if he can get past Gamrot, shoot, I mean, Jalin Turner has my utmost respect at this point in his career.
Yeah, and I think just last point here, I just think from like a technical grappling back, or kind of approach, Gamrot, attacks with a lot of single legs, and I think a guy with it's typically a little bit.
No, we're getting our weekly internet
It's
interference.
typically harder to
right
take
now.
down a taller guy. There we go. Am I back? Can you hear me?
It's that maple syrup like clogging the connection over there or something.
Yeah, he's got a sticky Ethernet cable.
Yeah. I mean, I see you guys perfectly. You guys hear me now?
We got you.
They got you more clear now, yeah. Your whole last point kind of went away. No one heard it.
Yeah, no, I was just saying it's a lot harder to take down a taller guy like up against the fence, like through body locks, just because of their height. They can typically catch themselves. But the way that Gamrot attacks a single leg, just from a technical standpoint, I mean, I feel like it's going to be actually fairly easy to catch Turner's leg in the middle of the octagon. So I think Dariush's defense was really good just because he just kind of popped right back up every time. But that just, I mean, Dariush is such high level jiu-jitsu that I just don't see Turner being able to defend like that. So
yeah. And that is the levels that we speak of, right? Like Dariush is like all the way up here. But speaking of levels and people entering the top ranks of their division, this next fight, right? Another prospect that everyone has the highest of hopes and aspirations for. Shavkat Rakhmanov taking on Geoff Hands of Steel Neal. Shavkat right now minus 500 just about everywhere across the board. Best line available for Geoff Neal is plus 400 on DraftKings. Kev, I'm actually going to kick this one off to you to start. So you're rubbing those grubby hands over there, getting ready, assuming it's a Shavkat take.
Yeah, I mean, let's just be real here. I mean, there are probably less than 5 to 7 fighters on the UFC roster that have that it factor. And I think that we have 3 of them on this main card in Bo Nickal, Shavkat Rakhmanov, and Jon Jones. Shavkat Rakhmanov, I mean, what is there to say about this man? He's truly a special individual, right? I mean, all 13 of his wins are all by finish. As a matter of fact, no, I take that back. So out of his 16 wins, 15 of them are in the first or second round by finish. I mean, that's truly insane. But man, he just has that it factor, man. He's so well-rounded. He's got the striking. He's got the grappling. I mean, when you watch like his tape, from the regional scene all the way up, he has a very clear game plan. He either knocks you down and beats a snot at you on the ground, or he knocks you down and submits you. Like, he will get down into full mount and absolutely maul. He had a fight back in 2018 that had my attention. It was versus a guy named, and he's a very quality prospect. I don't have the name offhand. It was back in 2018. Faridan Odilov. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but he's a pretty significant prospect out in Russia and hasn't lost since that fight. In this fight, Shavkat Rakhmanov gets knocked down, comes back and absolutely mauls. And that fight particularly showed me that this guy has a ton of heart, when he is in those deep waters and is about to get finished, that he's able to rally back and find a finish of his own. It's just that instinct that he has, that IQ. Like, Rakhmanov just knows where to be at the right time. And look, I mean, what is there to say about Geoff Neal? 7-2 in the UFC, has clearly made a good name for himself, training over at Fortis MMA with Saif Saud. So, clearly is getting the quality coaching in, the quality training in. But one tendency that I saw in Geoff Neal in his fights, that when he does fight and when he defends on the feet, I don't think that he defends his body very well. And I think that's going to be wide open for Rakhmanov. Rakhmanov is an animal. He's going to work. He's going to damage every part of your body. He's not just going to look to hit you on the face. He's going to look to hit you in the body, in the legs, in the knees, in the calves, everywhere. And I firmly expect Rakhmanov to steamroll here. There's just levels to this game. And look, Geoff Neal coming off a big knockout off Vicente Luque, super impressive win. But yeah, no, I mean, Rakhmanov is just a different animal that I don't think we've seen before. I mean, he reminds me a lot of the Khamzat Chimaev vibe. It's just something in this blood, this energy that they carry that is truly immortal. So I firmly expect Shavkat Rakhmanov to come in here and steamroll. First round, maybe not, but I firmly expect him to find either a knockout or submission, maybe even just a ground and pound from top mount. I mean, he's just truly vicious. So again, he's just one of those fighters that when he gets hit, like if he gets a hit, it's going to light a fire under him. And I do expect Geoff Neal to maybe have a few moments in this fight where he is in a few overhands, but I think that's just going to even make Shavkat that much more greater and find the job here. So I do like probably second, third round finish on the Shavkat Rakhmanov side.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's another one of these fights where it's like, what else can you really say? I mean, I think Shavkat is the real deal. Well-rounded, championship caliber, all that. I'm not going to kind of dive into. You just really said it. But I think just with Geoff Neal, he's one of these guys I think he's worthy of a top 10 spot, but I think that's about it. Like, he's great fundamentals, good hand speed, but we've seen the chinks in his armor. We've seen him get outstruck by a better striker in Stephen Thompson. We've seen him get out-grappled by a better grappler in Neal Magny. I know MMA math doesn't always work out, right? Magny beats Neal, Shavkat beats Magny, right? So you would think Shavkat just kind of steamrolls Neal. Maybe not the case. I do think Neal will, again, he is high level. I think if he plays it smart, he can, certainly have his moments. But I do think that what separates these two fighters more than anything is the ground game. And because of that, I mean, I like Shavkat here by submission. And I know it's, I said the same thing kind of about Bo Nickal, but obviously, Jamie Pickett is Geoff Neal, right? So I just think Shavkat is so kind of sneaky with his submissions. Like this guy, he has a great feel for positions. And I just think that if you give him that opportunity, that's really going to be it. Combine that with the fact that Neal, he has been submitted before, good on the feet, so I think on the feet, certainly, you always have a puncher's chance, but I fully expect Shavkat to at some point take this to the ground and make quick work of Neal, whether it be by the back or his very strong guillotine choke. But, this man is on a collision course for a championship caliber fight. I think it's always tough to promote these guys that don't speak English, that have this kind of weird aura about them. I mean, he's this guy from Kazakhstan that no one's ever really heard about, and he's ranked in the top 10. So I just think the UFC is going to have to do a little bit more to get the sort of the fans behind him. But the diehards know exactly who this guy is. They've known who he is for a while now. So I just think line at whatever minus 500 or so. I mean, rightfully so. He should look great here, and I very excited to see what's next for him if he can make quick work of Geoff Neal. I mean, can you imagine Shavkat against Leon Edwards versus Khamzat Chimaev? I mean, these are two logical next fights. I mean, Khamzat I know is seems like he's going to be moving into 185 for the foreseeable future. But yeah, I just don't know who can really crack this little puzzle of his. Very interesting fighter to prepare for. We haven't really seen a lot of moments where, he hasn't dominated the fight. So maybe this is the fight. Maybe he gets clipped and comes back like you mentioned in one of his earlier fights, Kevin, before the UFC. But yeah, for now, I mean, I lean Shavkat now. I'm trying to still figure out how I'm going to bet this fight, but I do think that Shavkat can't submit him here, as the fight progresses. So from a betting perspective, nothing yet, but that's probably where I'll look to lean, at least for now.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely tough. Anytime you have the stomach laying minus 500 in the top 10 of a division, right? But when you're looking at the tangibles that someone like Shavkat Rakhmanov has, it's undeniable, right? I mean, usually you see guys like him, even Khamzat, for example, he is specifically a ground specialty. That is his thing. We didn't know if he had decent hands or so until the Gilbert Burns fight. We still don't really know. But with Shavkat, we know that his striking is equally as good as his grappling, which is terrifying, especially for this division that's dominated by one-dimensional grapplers. And, someone like Geoff Neal, I think Dan kind of said it, he definitely is worthy of being top 10 in the division, but he himself is one-dimensional. I mean, he's a striker in a grappler's division. it's going to be tough for him to find success inside the top 10. Obviously, we saw his loss to Magny. He is, however, coming off the best performance of his career against Vicente Luque. That third-round knockout is a main event, if I'm not mistaken, too. And that knockout really was just, an accumulation knockout. It was almost just like a war of attrition, and Vicente Luque just gave out, man, because Neal put it on him from start to finish. I think when you're looking at this matchup, there's not much else I could add to it from what you guys have said. Shavkat is one of those guys that you know that there is no ceiling for him. And I was actually looking at a line. I think I shouted out in the Discord yesterday or the day prior that there's a future bet on BetMGM that really has my attention, especially ahead of this week, where the welterweight champion by year's end of 2023, Shavkat Rakhmanov, is sitting at plus 900. And I think if he gets a win here in this spot, if he does it so dominantly, I think UFC matches him up against Belal Muhammad. I really do. I think it's going to be a title eliminator fight, Shavkat versus Belal. Obviously, the winner of Leon Usman will probably fight once more in the year, if I had to guess, somewhere in November or December towards the end. And, like I said, if Shavkat can get a win here, be unscathed, fight again, whether it's International Fight Week or sometime in, June, April, he could fight again at the end of the year for a title. And at plus 900, really not seeing anyone in his way that can really stop him from getting to a title shot. I really like the odds there. But like I said, it's tough to get to minus 500 in the top 10 of a division. I obviously lean Shavkat. I wanted so badly to find a way to play Geoff Neal here, right? Just because I had him against Vicente Luque last time out as an underdog, if I had to remember correctly. And, like I said, best performance of his career, looked great. Fortis MMA, Safe Saeed, they seem to be, meshing very well together. But there's only so much game planning and prep that you could do for a guy like Shavkat. And, Shavkat, he did beat Geoff Neal. I think it was a second round submission, if I'm not mistaken, last time out. He's still, in my eyes, I need to see more of him against top talent before I could justify taking this price here. For that reason, I'll probably lay off it. Definitely my prediction would be Shavkat, though.
Yeah, no, I love it. And now these guys were supposed to fight, if I'm not mistaken, back in January. And, there's this whole narrative, oh, well, that'll give Geoff Neal's coaching staff more time to get ready. And it's just like, how can you really train for a guy in Shavkat Rakhmanov? So I was just looking at the odds here. Rakhmanov inside the distance is minus 150. I mean, I think that there's still an incredible amount of value in that spot there. Look, I mean, Geoff Neal hasn't been finished in the UFC in 9 fights, although his last finish came off the regional scene. Last finish versus Kevin Holland. He got knocked out. He's also gotten submitted. So I just don't think that it's not out of the ordinary that Rakhmanov finds a job here inside the distance. So certainly going to be approaching from that avenue. And I'll definitely be adding Rakhmanov in a few parlays to add a little bit of value elsewhere.
Yeah, and that's an interesting line because, as you mentioned, he's 16-0 with 16 finishes, right? So minus 150 on a finish, kind of a head scratcher being so low. Obviously, he's a minus 500 favorite, so that number is going to be in the minus zone. But someone like Geoff Neal, though, he's kind of he minds his P's and Q's. I think he does a good job of doing so, not putting himself in excessive danger. And this could very well be like an easy 30-27, 30-26. So that's kind of why, like, it's really tough to find a line here that I love. But if you guys have nothing else to add for that one, let's move on to our co-main event, our first of the 2 title shots here. And this is Valentina Shevchenko taking on Alexa Grasso. Best line available for Shevchenko, minus 670 on FanDuel. She's about minus 800 plus everywhere else. And then the best line available for Alexa Grasso is plus 600 on BetOnline. Just a quick note here. Grasso has only been the underdog twice in her UFC career. She's 0-2 in both showings. Last one, she was plus 450 versus our girl Tatiana Suarez, lost by first round submission there. And the other time, I believe that she was plus 350 against like Felice Herrig, and she lost the decision. So not too promising if you're looking at back the Alexa Grasso side, but I'm going to kick this one off to Dan here.
Yeah, and for those that follow the show, I mean, you may remember the last time out we saw Ms. Shevchenko. I was on Talia Santos, and listen, some people call me crazy, but like at the end of that fight, if a few of you didn't think that Valentina lost that fight, well, I don't know what you're watching, because I gave it to Santos. I thought Santos won that fight. I thought, we saw Santos fade a little bit, and that's part of the reason why I think Shevchenko was able to steal a few rounds. But I mean, rest assured, we saw Shevchenko, finally kind of, I won't say like meet her match, because she did win, but I think we're starting to see that the new wave in this division. Shevchenko is essentially dominated from its inception, right? They created this division ultimately to so she can get away from Amanda Nunes, right? And so I think we've seen her win in spectacular fashion. We've seen her win squeaking out decisions. I think in Alexa Grasso, though, what we get with her that we didn't get with Santos is a better gas tank. I think we know that Grasso can go 5 rounds and keep a strong pace, as she did in her last fight. Combine that with the fact that I just think, she's really well rounded, and I'm trying to figure out. I think on the feet, you obviously give the kicking advantage here to Shevchenko, but I think with the hands, I think Grasso has the edge here. I think she's going to have the faster hands. I think she's going to move actually a little bit better on her feet. And I think when it hits the ground, like, to be honest, I think Grasso will probably do better just keeping this standing. But I think if it does hit the ground, like, we can see Grasso potentially, land a takedown or two. I just feel like Shevchenko, when there's so much tape out on someone, it certainly makes that mystique around you a little bit easier to game plan. And with the way that Mexican fighters are getting pumped right now, I mean, you got Moreno who won the title. You've got Yair Rodriguez just winning the interim title. You've got this UFC PI in Mexico City opening up soon. I think Mexico is absolutely on fire right now, and can you imagine what it'll do for that fan base if Alexa Grasso comes in and takes out Valentina Shevchenko? I think, side note too, I think Shevchenko needs one more win to complete the buckle, the Jubilee buckle on her championship belt. That'll make it, I believe, 6 or 7 to make it complete,
8.
right?
That'll be 8. This will be the 8th title defense.
This will be the 8th one, yeah. So that's it. So that'll be the first since they introduced this new title, which is interesting. So I just think that at this price, why not take a stab at her? I think she has all the tools. She's 29. You mentioned her last loss against Tatiana Suarez, but like, how long ago was that? So I think at the same time, Grasso's really only lost to the best. She loses to a close split decision to Carla Esparza, where, I mean, she got wrestled, taken down and controlled, but no real damage. I think, at this age, this is where you're making your prime improvements. And, again, we've seen Shevchenko probably look worse in her last fight than we've ever seen her. Does that mean she's falling off a little bit? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. She comes in here and walks through Grasso. I mean, I'll eat my words, but I think Grasso has what it takes to make a run here, and it's actually setting up quite nicely for a Grasso Tatiana Suarez potential title match. Maybe we see Blanchfield come in, Manel Fiorot, right? So these are all new players in this space. I mean, I think the tide is turning in the women's division. And we're seeing, less of Shevchenko, less of Nunes, and more of these up and coming fighters. So yeah, give me Alexa Grasso. Everyone's liking favorites this card. I'm taking Alexa Grasso this week.
Yeah, no, I mean, it took me everything to bite my tongue throughout your breakdown, Dan, but I am on the complete polar opposite end. I mean, look, Alexa Grasso got taken down by 4 times by Randa Marcos, 3 times by Tatiana Suarez, 4 times by Esparza, 3 times by Macy Barber, 2 times by Felice Herrig. She got a 64% takedown defense. I just think that, like, we're comparing an apple to an orange here, man. I mean, Valentina is a different breed. Do I think that the tides are slowly turning? Absolutely. Do I think this is probably going to be Valentina's last title defense win? I do. But I just don't think that Grasso has the tools. I don't think that she has the technicality. I don't think that she has the strength. to keep up with Valentina. I really don't. Number 2 pound for pound women in the world. I would consider Valentina probably the second best, greatest women's mixed martial artist of all time behind Amanda Nunes. I don't know if you guys would agree with that, but yeah, no, look, she's got the most knockouts, in this division in UFC history. Valentina's tied with Katlyn Chookagian for the most wins in UFC Flyweight, women's history. I just don't think that this is her time to fall off the cliff here. Grasso, I think, is a good prospect. I think she showed some really good flash versus a 22-year-old Macy Barber. Was really impressed by those transitions that she had in that fight and that grappling acumen. But look, I mean, again, Valentina is just different. And if you look at the trajectory of Grasso's career, look, I mean, she lost to Esparza. She got dominated by Tatiana Suarez in the first round. She's able to beat those fighters that she's able to beat, right? The Viviane Arujos, the Joanne Woods, the Jiyeon Kims of the world. But when she faces that top tier caliber talent, I mean, we've seen what happens. And if she can't get past, those 2 fighters, I mean, what's it going to look like here versus Valentina? Look, I mean, I think that Taila Santos was a very tricky matchup for Shevchenko. It was certainly the closest fight that she's ever had in her career. But I like if Santos fought Grasso, I think Santos absolutely mauls Grasso. I really do. I just don't think that this is the woman that's going to take Valentina off the throne. I think it'll probably be Blanchfield, as crazy as it is saying it for me, since I wasn't a believer, a few weeks ago, but I certainly am now. Or that Santos rematch. But I just don't see the Mexican hype in this spot here. I just think Valentina is going to be way too much. She's a tricky matchup, and she's one of the best. She's one of the greatest of all time. So give me Valentina Shevchenko here. Not sure about the method, but surely going to be a solid parlay piece this week.
I mean,
Kev,
Kev, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think you really did. When you're looking at this fight, actually, I want to go back a little bit because Kev, you mentioned earlier that there's 3 fighters on this main card that have the it factor, and you seemingly skipped over Valentina Shevchenko. I think that was a mistake by you because she is a dominant force. And the reason why I think, maybe it's a reason why Dan is leaning the Grasso side is because she showed humanity in this division her last time out. She showed that she's not Superman, that she's going to go out there and just steamroll absolutely everybody. I mean, Taila Santos was a very tough matchup. It gave her, in my opinion, it gave her something to work off of. Like, if I know Valentina throughout her career, that last fight is, the last person I'd want to be in the world right now is Alexa Grasso. Coming off that last performance by Valentina, she was upset with herself. That she thinks that she has much more that she can accomplish and fix leading up to this fight. And I just don't see where Grasso's advantage is. I mean, if Dan thinks it's coming from a grappling perspective, she lands under 0.5 takedowns per 15 minutes or something like that in the UFC. Kev rattled off all the amounts of time she's been taken down by lesser competition than Valentina Shevchenko. I think a good look here is Shevchenko by submission. I really do. I think it's honestly good. She might want to, kind of throw in grappling into her own game plan here, kind of like as a fuck you to everyone that says I can't grapple after my last fight. If this fight stays standing, I don't know how you could favor anyone over Valentina in the stand-up game. I just don't know how you could do so, especially someone like Alexa Grasso, who, when you look at her wins in the UFC, right, she's coming off a main event, right, against Viviane Araujo. She won by decision over 5 rounds. Before that, submitted Joanne Wood. She beat Macy Barber like 29-28. Just nothing worth importance. She hasn't done really anything in my mind that justifies me playing her at plus 600. I get it's attractive. I get Valentina showed some chinks in her armor last time out, but man, I can't get there. The market's been right on Grasso. When she's an underdog, she loses. She gets dominated in those losses. And I just think that, the UFC kind of just threw up here because they had no one else to feed Valentina while they kept Blanchfield busy to build her up for a fight. Taila Santos obviously pulled out of that Blanchfield fight that they were trying to set up the rematch with Valentina. This is just in my opinion, it's just a cheap way for the UFC to give Valentina another title shot before the new wave truly does take over. I like Alexa Grasso as a fighter. I think she was minus 200 or so against Araujo last time out, and I was set on here. I put the money shades on for Alexa Grasso. I hammered it home. I think we had 4 or 5 units of the KP on Grasso last time out. So I understand Grasso's game. I know where she's good, but Valentina is just a little bit better, in my opinion, everywhere else. And she's just going to kind of reinforce what we all know about her already, that she's a dominant champion. She's one of the best women fighters in the history of the sport. And yeah, I agree with you guys that her time is limited at this point. She's 34 years old. She's been fighting since she was like 15 or 16 years old. I actually was going back a little bit before because I mentioned that I like the parlay for the fight to start round 2 in this fight. And I noticed that the last time Valentina had a fight finish in the first round was 2006 on the regional scene when she was 17 years old, which is just absolutely crazy. But I like Shevchenko here. Honestly, I would take a stab at Shevchenko by finish. I don't know what the line is on a double chance
Minus
for
150.
submission.
Minus 150.
Do you know what it is for submission decision double chance?
Yeah.
I'd have to imagine it's plus something.
For a submission decision, minus 190.
Whoa, okay. It's a little bit wider.
I think the reason why you're seeing that is because, I think this one is probably going to be going the distance. I mean, like, if I were to sides aside, right? I mean, if you don't want to take a stab at Grasso, I mean, I think a prime spot here with the over 3.5, you can get even. I mean, frankly, if you look at who Shevchenko has finished on this title run of hers, Lauren Murphy. I mean, Jessica Andrade is great, but at the end of the day, like when she loses, she gets finished most of the time, right? We obviously saw that a couple of weeks ago. Caitlin Chukagian, right? Again, not the most durable fighter. I really think that Grasso is going to be able to not only survive in there, but make it competitive. And I mean, to be honest, I see it going the distance. I think Grasso can win on the scorecards, but at the very least, over 3.5 at even money seems like a great spot. I just don't know if she can submit her here. I mean, I really, again, Shevchenko, she lands, I would say, opportunistic submissions, right? She has a couple nice ones. She submitted Juliana Pena way back when, but to call out, to bet on her to win by submission when like the last time she did that was what, like 2018? I'm talking about 5 years. Tough to say. Tough.
That Andrade fight was like 2 years ago.
I don't really see it, but
that connection is sus. Man, shit. So you're talking about the.
Like, am I not wrong? Didn't Valentina submit Jessica Andrade like 1.5, 2 years ago? That was 5 years ago.
No, that was a TKO, like crucifix.
No.
Yeah, she got her in like top position, the crucifix, and yeah.
I thought that was a submission. Yeah.
Does that change your take?
Ow, you fucking no. My dog just pawed the shit out of me. No, it doesn't change my pick.
Yeah, no, I mean, and it's funny, Dan, because you mentioned about those jewels on the belt, those rubies, and it's like there's one more piece to the puzzle, that infinite number 8. And then you also mentioned this rematch between Grasso and Tatiana Suarez, and I think you actually have it backwards. I think that Grasso loses here, and then down the road we may see a title eliminator between the two. I'm sure that Grasso would love that, but I mean, Shevchenko is just a different animal. I firmly believe that her reign is slowly coming to an end, though. But not here.
I can't tell if Dan has nothing to say or if he's frozen right now.
Yeah, that connection.
I don't know. I might be frozen. I'm hearing you guys, so if you don't hear me, let me know. But
we got you.
Yeah, I think we're just at a point with Shevchenko. I mean, every day, and I just think it's just a matter of are we going to be on the other side when it happens, right? We were on the other side with Leon Edwards. We weren't on the other side with Adesanya, right? I just think like the tide is turning in the UFC, right? We're starting the new breeds, if you will, coming out. Grasso again, it may not be today. I think from a betting perspective, I'll probably have some exposure on Grasso, but my bigger bet will probably be on that over 3.5 here. But I just think she's human. She's human. She can win. Like Grasso was live compared to like Taila Santos. Taila Santos in that fight. Do you know from an odds perspective?
What's in that fight? She was what, like plus 400, right?
Fuck it.
She was plus 400 in that fight, no?
Yeah, I think Valentina went off around like minus 650-ish, if I'm not
Right.
mistaken.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
And
ballsy pick. I mean, listen, somebody's got to take the Grasso side, right?
Gosh, Dan is frozen again. But man, yeah, I just don't see it, man. Like I get the narrative that Valentina is slowing down, and she wasn't looking like herself or Santos, but like I think that Santos is in a different region than Grasso. I really do. I think that Santos and Blanchfield are in a different region than Grasso. And I think both those ladies would wipe the floor with Grasso. I really do. And you're telling me that Grasso is going to come in here and beat Shevchenko on the cards? I just don't see it, man. I just don't see it one bit.
No, listen, hey, every dog has its day. I mean, if you told people a year and a half ago that Juliana Pena was going to beat Amanda Nunes, you would have gotten, unfollowed, unsubscribed, all the above, and then you would have been the one laughing at the end of the day. So, listen, I'm not going to make fun of anybody who thinks that Grasso could win. I mean, it's very possible, right? I just think that it's more possible that Valentina gets it done at this number. But all the power to you, Dan. If you do take Alexa Grasso, that'd be an awesome hit for you at plus 500, but plus 600, my mistake. But enough of that fight. I think we can move on to the main event, the fight that everyone really has been waiting for 3 years now, and that's Jon Jones taking on Ciryl Gane. Jon Jones minus 160 is the best line available at this moment. That's over at Bet Online. Ciryl Gane's best line is at DraftKings. He is plus 140 there. And, anyone who's in the know knows that this line opened up with Jon Jones as an underdog. And, that line has since steamed and flipped all the way up to minus 160. It seems everyone and their mother is confident that Johnny Bones gets the job done after his 3-year layoff. Obviously making his heavyweight debut, fighting for the vacant title that Francis Ngannou left behind. Before we get into this, I need to touch on this betting line a little bit, because if there's any inspiration or reason why I would be hesitant to bet Jon Jones, is because the line makes no sense, right? And I think that it gives you reason to prod and dig further and make sense of why the line is what it is. Because a lot of what I do when I analyze lines, I try to find the why. Like, I'm looking at the line and be like, well, this – if it totally makes zero sense to me, I have to kind of look through it from like an investigative lens and be like, how the fuck does this make any sense? Because you look at Jon Jones's history as a betting favorite, he's like minus 600, minus 700. The lowest he's been, in the UFC from a betting perspective was minus 210 in the first fight against DC, Daniel Cormier, double champ, Olympic gold medalist Daniel Cormier. And now he opened up as an underdog, since got steamed to a favorite strictly due to market activity and nothing else. And it really leaves me scratching my head, right? Because obviously we know the facts are the facts. He hasn't fought in 3 years. He's 35 years old at this point. He's fighting in a weight class that he's never performed in before. His greatest attribute at light heavyweight was his size and his length, which kind of, dissipates here a little bit at heavyweight. And when you're looking at someone like Ciryl Gane, he's obviously still very green. We saw that in the Francis Ngannou fight. He's only fought a handful of times professionally in mixed martial arts, but one thing we could say for certain is his striking is top tier. I think when you're looking at Ciryl Gane, without a doubt, the best striking, best pure striking from a repertoire perspective, from a footwork perspective in the heavyweight division. I think we could say that without batting an eye. To stretch it even further, I think Ciryl Gane is one of the best strikers in the UFC. To his detriment, that's his only plus. He's not a good grappler. And what do we know Jon Jones for? That's grappling, man. Like, if he can land these takedowns over and over, rinse and repeat, he's going to wear on Gane. He's going to damage him. That footwork is slowly going to evaporate. The movement's not going to be there for Ciryl Gane. Jon Jones, when you're talking about the best fighters of all time, he is the name at the top. Like, I don't think that's disputed by anybody. Obviously, USADA, the news in the last week, the tests that he popped for Jon Jones are no longer considered positive tests in the new USADA ruling. So kind of washes away any sort of bad taste or ill will people felt towards Jon Jones's title reign and career up to this point. But it is an interesting matchup because of the things I mentioned before about the 3-year layoff in heavyweight. A lot of unknowns entering into this one. It is Ciryl Gane's first time as a betting underdog in his professional career. So, that leads a little bit of, intelligence as to why the line is what it is. But it makes no sense to me, because if Jon Jones, say he can't get the takedown, right, and this fight stays standing for 25 minutes, It is going to be a split decision most likely, and I think the judges would favor what Ciryl Gane could do on the feet. Right? I don't think that's out of the world of possibilities here. I think if you're betting Jon Jones, you're really just banking on him to get the grappling going, and you need those takedowns to happen. And we saw Francis Ngannou do it to Ciryl Gane, and Ngannou, the last thing he's known as is a grappler. I feel like I'm kind of dancing back and forth here. Obviously, loved Jon Jones at plus 105 when we originally were able to get him in. For without getting into it, we no longer have that ticket available to us. But minus 160 now, that's where it kind of gets a little bit tricky for myself, at least from my perspective. I love Jon Jones. He's the reason why I'm a UFC fan. I think it's a reason why a lot of the market activity is going towards him, pushing him up to this number. I think it's a reason why he'll be north of minus 200 come Saturday evening before he steps foot into the octagon. But, we could really, I think, pretty accurately say that his best days are behind him, right? I mean, we haven't seen him at heavyweight, but the guy is 35, and he's not an ordinary 35. He's been fighting professionally for, 17 years now, 18 years? Like, that wears on you. And now he's fighting up at a heavier weight class. I know no one works harder than him. I know he's put the work and he's done this the right way, but I just keep finding hesitance to getting there on my own now. But like I said, at dog price, loved him. Now I'm kind of finding reasons why I should play Gane. I know it's gross sounding. I know you guys don't want to hear that from me, but it's the truth.
Yeah, I guess this is just another one of those square leans on my part, but I firmly disagree. I'm touching Jones all the way up to minus 250 in this spot. I mean, look, Ciryl Gane has absolutely revolutionized the athleticism of the heavyweight division. I mean, we have never seen a heavyweight with this form of lateral movement, with this form of agility. It's truly unheard of. And, you have those, sling and bang fat heavyweights that are slowly going off into the sunset. And, Ciryl Gane is the new breed. It's like the Steph Curry, right? That new breed of 3-point shooting. Ciryl Gane making his 13th mixed martial arts debut versus a guy in Jon Jones who, I mean, what is there to say? Like, I have chills talking about the man. He is one of these fighters that it's really hard to fathom, the amount of success that he's put into the UFC, right? I mean, he's got, the most title fight wins in UFC history with 14, the most wins in light heavyweight history with 20. It's truly hard to fathom. And it's one of those things that, we may never see a fighter like Jon Jones, till like 2030, 2040. And I firmly believe it. As a matter of fact, I was thinking to myself about this fight, and it's like, Jon Jones is like the Michael Jordan. We haven't seen the LeBron James yet, Jon Jones is truly just a special breed. Do I think that he's over the hill? No. Look, he's taken a three-year layoff, clearly has been improving his game, building himself up into a heavyweight physique. And I just think that he has the tools to find a way with Ciryl Gane. I really do. Ciryl Gane getting dominated by Francis Ngannou in the grappling department. I understand that Francis Ngannou is a humongous beast, but if you're comparing neck and neck, the technicality between these two guys in that grappling department, I mean, it's night and day. Do I think that Gane can find a way on the feet? Absolutely. When Jon Jones fought Reyes, in those first few rounds, I mean, Jones was getting clocked in the first round. I think that he lost that round. And, once he found that groove in the grappling department, I mean, the tides truly turned. And I think that we're going to see something very similar here. I could firmly see Ciryl Gane winning round 1, maybe even round 2. And like you said, Matt, I think that we could potentially see a greasy split decision, which I've got in my notes here. Jon Jones by split at plus 800. Certainly going to be finding exposure there. Found another weird prop here that I'm going to be taking a stab on here. Jon Jones by submission round 4, 60-1, round 5, 75-1. I just think that those numbers are way too belligerent for a guy who has the experience. He's been there, done that. I believe that, the leg kicks are eventually going to add up. He's going to be able to take Ciryl Gane down. And I think that we could potentially see a good old late submission that we've seen time and time again in these, title fights. So that's going to be exposure here. Of course, I'm going to be playing the Jon Jones money line. I'm all over Jon Jones. A lot of respect for Ciryl. I think that he'll be an undisputed champion maybe one day, but this is just different, man. Jon Jones, it's just so hard to fathom. There's this whole breed of mixed martial arts fans that came in, in the McGregor phase and this and that. But man, Jon Jones is truly a legend, and what an honor it is to see him grace the octagon this weekend.
I gotta say, Kev, I'm very happy that I heard you place 2 round props because it's been a long time. That was your bread and butter for a while, so that makes me very happy.
Get my mojo this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the last time that I bet against Jon Jones was when he fought Stephan Bonnar way back when, right?
Lord.
And, believe it or not, yeah, I bet against Jon Jones when he was fighting Stephan Bonnar. Don't ask me why, but I think he's come a long way. He's steamrolled through just about everybody they've ever put in front of him. I mean, you talk about a guy whose, losses come from, beating the shit out of Matt Hamill and I guess a draw, or is it a no contest now that wouldn't be a no contest today if it would have happened, but was 5 years ago. Yep. So, I just think, unfortunately, he's had a few bumps in the road. He's certainly not like the golden boy that he once was when he won the title the same day that he took down like a guy stealing a lady's purse. The guy was a superhero. And I just think when you think about being cut from a different cloth, I mean, Jon Jones is that. There's clearly something in that gene pool. You got 2 brothers in the NFL, one of which is like one of the best defensive linemen to ever play the game. So clearly that gene pool, hit the lotto. And I think Jones, before anything, he is an intelligent fighter. Take away all the athleticism, the skills, the attributes. He has always approached the game completely cerebral. And going back to, obviously, now I think he's doing his own thing with his own camp, but he was once a part of that Jackson Wink MMA where, GSP was the cornerstone of that camp for the longest time. We all know how GSP would approach his fights. Jon Jones clearly learned a lot from that. And he's kind of, followed that and that's been his path to winning a lot of fights, right? I mean, I remember him beating Alexander Gustafsson coming out in that 5th round when it was clearly 2-2 at risk of losing his title and, showed that heart. So, he has the intelligence, he has the heart, he has the skills. I mean, yeah, I can understand people saying, listen, 3 years off, is he going to be the same guy, a lot heavier? Is he going to have the same gas tank to go 5 rounds? I think Jon Jones is the kind of guy that, factors all these things into the equation, right? Some people are talking about how he's unembedded now, swimming. Chael Sonnen was saying that you only swim if you're injured, so maybe he's coming in injured.
That's sus. He's cutting out.
I'm not buying it.
He was giving us such a good breakdown too, Kev.
Man, and it's like a weekly thing, man. Shit, we get him some new Wi-Fi connection, maybe off the King's purse money that we'll win this weekend.
I think I'm back. I think I'm back.
All right.
I hear you, but you're kind of frozen. There you go.
I think I'm back. Am I back?
Yep, you're back. You're back. So is Jon Jones, baby.
All right. I was on my own soapbox there off now. I'm going to do something I've never done on this show before. And I'm going to bet. I'm putting max bet. Actually, if you go on my Bet MMA, I've got 11 units locked in at Jon Jones that I did when the lines came out at plus 105. So, I would still take him at minus 170. I would take him all the way up to minus 250. I'll take him up to anything. Jon Jones is winning this fight. And funny enough, if you go into fight night, you look at the pinned messages. The first message was a message that I put once upon a time, right before Ciryl Gane fighting Francis Ngannou, and seeing Ngannou at plus money was like just absolutely insane to me. So clearly there's something wrong with these odds makers in Gane. I mean, yeah, he's the dog for the first time. People are asking why the lines opened up the way it was. I don't know. I think that Gane, as good as he is, might be a little bit overrated, if I'm being perfectly honest. I think he looked great. He looked great against Tai Tuivasa, but we knew that'll happen, right? And he got clipped. Yeah. He got dropped. I think he showed chinks in his armor last fight. He looked great. I think this guy has all the skills. We're talking about a guy who dropped for like a heel hook after in like the 4th round against Ngannou when he was like clearly losing that fight, right? So you got to factor in like the intelligence factor. I mean, I don't get it, you know. So whatever.
No,
I'm
I get
done
it.
with this take. You're going to go on YouTube. Everyone's going to be saying bet Jon Jones, bet Jon Jones. It is what it is. But the fact of the matter is that this is the GOAT of MMA, guys. And for him to lose this fight, something absolutely miraculous would have to happen. So maybe that happens. I eat my word. But for now, it's max bet Jon Jones, baby.
Yeah, I kind of want to add a little context to what you said about the Ngannou fight, because there's reasons why Ngannou was, you know, an underdog, opened up as an underdog.
The knee injury, for sure.
Odds makers knew that his knees were shot. The guy wasn't even supposed to perform in the octagon, which, ow, fucking called me again. Which, you know, kind of like, I lost my train of thought. It makes it more impressive that Ngannou won the fight, and it makes it, you know, more of an asterisk on Gane that he lost that fight to Ngannou, who had 2 bad knees. I think all the points for and against Jon Jones are very valid, which kind of makes it, for my own take, like it confuses things, because I think you're right. Like, we've never seen a fighter as good as Jon Jones grace the octagon. I think his biggest attribute is that he's a student of the game. Like, he really is very humble. You can even see it. If you guys have noticed and watched any of Henry Cejudo's videos he's been posting of him training Jon Jones leading up to this camp. And, you know, it's just refreshing to see how humble he remains in the training room, that he still knows that he has so much to learn, you know, even willing to take a leap to go and train with someone like Henry Cejudo, an Olympic gold medalist, the champ. Like, it proves his mentality, where he is mentally about the game and the sport and how he approaches it. Because if he were coming to this like, oh, I'm the man, I'm fucking undefeated, most title defenses in history, who's going to teach me anything? Like, then that's a red flag. You're like, I'll bet against this motherfucker any day of the week. But, you know, there's truth on both sides. I think that it's a great fight. I think this fight's going to go a lot, in my opinion, it's going to go a lot like the last pay-per-view main event, where Islam fought Volk, and both guys kind of came away with a high stock. Like, I feel like neither guy is really going to lose in this fight, at least from a popularity standpoint. I think they both come away looking better. It's going to set them both up for the future, and that's why I'm leaning this fight to go the distance. I'm leaning a split decision as well. But yeah, I mean, trust me, I'm rooting for Jon Jones all the way. I'm not going to bet Ciryl Gane. I'm not out of my mind, but it's more not if I have the balls to jump on the Jon Jones train.
Yeah. What a special evening it's going to be, guys. Truly one of the better main cards from recent memory. You know, given that we have, you know, the men's GOAT, you know, one of the women GOATs, you know, a future GOAT potentially. I mean, you never know. So, I mean, it's just going to be a very, 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 very special moment. Super blessed to be able to cash it in with you guys.
Absolutely, guys. And that is our breakdown for UFC 285. A little bit over the 1 hour mark this week. It's one of our longer episodes in a while, but it's the first time the 3 of us have been on camera together in about a month. So it kind of makes sense. But thank you guys for joining us. Hop in our Discord and subscribe and follow us on SoBet using the link below in the bio. You know, we give one pick there exclusive to SoBet that are not provided elsewhere. We're 2-0 on those picks with Josh Kulabau and Augusto Sakai last week, both around even money at -118 to -112. So make sure you hit us up there. Use the registration link in our bio and hit us up in Discord as well for the fights, boys.
Let's go, boys. Make it rain.
Wars.